All right, week 12 analysis video, starting with the scores from last week. I beat Corey 14-2. Alex beat JW 10-4-2. French beats Bo 10-5-1. Casey gets a win 10-5-1 over Brad. Big battle, number one and number two in the power rankings. Nate beats Frank 9-5-2. They had quite the battle as well on offense. Both hit over 308 and slugged 500 or more or less. Super tight in several fields. And Jeremiah beats Matthew. A little bit of a surprise there. All right, let's look at some numbers. Here are the latest streaks. Let me zoom in a bit. So Nate has now not lost in 9 matchups. There's only 2 remaining chances for us to beat him before he goes through the whole league without a loss. And those 2 matchups are JW and Alex, 2 of the teams currently in the top half of the standing. So maybe Alex, who beat him last, can beat him again. Maybe JW can knock him off a week before that. We'll see. But yeah, he is in first in the standings. Because of the big win for me, I moved into second this week. Notable streaks. Alex has now not lost in 4 weeks. Matthew has not won in 4 weeks. A little troubling. Bo's lost 4 in a row, but kind of coinciding with his selling. Not a shock, you know. He's gonna probably sell more, I would think too. French quietly has won 4 in a row, and I think 2 of his last 3 weeks have been his best 2 VTLs, 3 weeks ago and then this week. So things are kind of looking up, and I'm looking at this league and I'm thinking, so Corey decided today to listen to offers. He hasn't done anything yet, but he's listening to offers, right? Jeremiah's listening to some offers. Bo's already made it clear he's, open for offers. JW put out there that he was interested in hearing what people had to offer even. And so you start to feel like, okay, we got 3 teams at the top who've been kind of consistently doing well. Alex has separated himself from the pack in terms of 4th, both in VTL narrowly, but also in the standings. So you've got 4 teams that you feel pretty good about making the playoffs. If JW entertains selling, Maffey has lost 4 games in a row. Casey's had a bit of a rough stretch. I'm all of a sudden thinking, why couldn't it be French sneaking in as the 5 or the 6 in the playoffs? So 4 wins in a row. I'm paying attention. And it's the offense. I don't know why it's just so funny to me, but French came into the season looking like a good pitching team. The pitchers all were hurt. Still has more potential there, but the offense it's just a Frenchian principle. No matter what your roster is, your offense will carry you, your team French. Anyway, sorry. Corey's lost 5 in a row now. Bad luck continues, and Jeremiah tied last week and got the win this week. So technically, he has not lost in 2 weeks now. Looking at the actual VTL numbers, I was number 1 last week still, but I think I widened the gap quite a bit because I had a really good week. Nate and Frank both were right around 50% mark, so both of their numbers actually went down just a little bit. Yeah, so the 3 of us separated by, Frank's separated 4% down, but 3 of us are still kind of looking like the 3 teams to beat, probably to me. Alex has been really consistently good pitching. The batting hasn't always been there, but to me, he looks like number 4. I guess I'm doing power rankings kind of impromptu. You can just see there just still isn't a whole lot of separation here between number 4 and number 12. We have the same amount of separation as from number 1 to number 4. So it really feels like those final few playoff spots are still very much up for grabs for any team that decides to push. Frankly, any team of this group that decides to buy can probably get in, it seems to me, if they buy well, that is. So yeah, here are the VTLs. I'm just gonna let you guys look at them. Let's look at the luck. Corey's favorite part of the week. So everyone's relatively normalized. Again, Frank has had a little bit of an easier go. 44% opponent VTL batting, which is over 20% easier than Corey's, for example. Jeremiah has all season had quite tough luck against offenses. 58% VTL is essentially almost equivalent to our best offense every single week. Quite unlucky. And we got a weird thing going with Alex, which I don't think I've ever noticed before, and Bo, where everyone is bad against Alex on offense, but everyone's good on pitching. And for Bo, everyone's good on batting. No one's good on pitching. Interesting. Couple stats of the week. I had 38th best week ever, 31st best batting ever. The batting was super crazy. I had the fourth most home runs of all time at 28. And yes, apparently that's the fourth most. I think the record holder, let's look. I think the record holder is Casey Fry. And it was from a year where we were on ESPN. And so I couldn't ever go back and verify whether I did this right or whether this was wrong. But 33 seems impossible. 83 RBI, 66 runs. It feels like that must have been a week where it was the like 2 weeks packed into one, right? And I just never prorated the stats, but it was week 19. So 33 has been done. No one's ever passed 30 except for old Casey Fry. But I will slide in here right behind 33, 29, and 29. So that was pretty fun. I don't think we've seen home runs like that in a long time. I mean, yeah, that is the most home runs since we've used Fantrax, which was 2020. So that was cool to toot my own horn. Uh, Bo and Brad had pretty bad weeks. Corey had a bad week. This is the percentile. So ninth percentile outcome versus the 97th percentile outcome in that direct matchup. That's obviously tough. Alex with an 86th percentile outcome, mostly on the back of great pitching once again. Yeah, nothing else really jumps out other than Frank had really great batting, but really terrible pitching. And Nate was just, well, actually, it's kind of weird that Frank didn't win a lot more offense. Yeah. I mean, to go 4-3-1 on offense when you are 143rd best all time, 91st percentile, and you face someone that's 70th percentile, you'd almost expect to do better. But 70 percentile is quite good, obviously, for Nate. Let's look at the power rankings. So again, I'm keeping up the last 5 weeks stuff. Crazy enough, I double checked it to make sure I wasn't doing some error or something. Nate, Justin, Alex, identical record over the last 5 weeks. 44, 33, and 3. Pretty weird. And three of the top four teams in the power rankings. Frank 38, 35, and 7 hasn't really looked elite when you look at wins and losses. However, the VTL has been like significantly better than anybody else except for me. Nate, I'm still leaving at number 1 in the power rankings. The dude's won 9 games in a row, or he hasn't lost in 9 weeks. He's just beaten Frank and I in 2 of the last 3 weeks. Hard to say he isn't the best team in the league. Certainly, until he loses, I don't feel like he can come off of number 1, even if the VTL isn't quite as good as Frank and I over the last 5 weeks. It's still the third best. Alex right behind him. So these 4 teams, frankly, I could see these 4 teams being the top 4 teams the rest of the season. Wouldn't surprise me at all. Maffey 32, 43, and 5 over the last 5 weeks, starting to maybe go the wrong way. I think it was 4 straight losses after the loss this week to Jeremiah, who previously couldn't pay, to get a win, seemed like. So just been unlucky as well. French 41, 34, and 5 is narrowly missing being the best last 5 weeks record. And at the VTL at 49.5, I mean, that's basically the same as Alex, JW, Corey. So French has reason to be optimistic. Brad, and yeah, just Brad, I guess, is a little over 500, but pretty close. And then Casey, Bo, and Jeremiah are each a little bit under that 500 mark over the last 5 weeks. So this is the order of the power rankings for this week. Here are your last 5 weeks record and BTL. Here are the upcoming opponents. So Nate and Frank have to play JW and Alex next, which means if you're Alex or JW, that you have to play Nate and Frank next. So that's always a challenge. And I don't know if there's any other noteworthy part to that. The tier names, I said that tier A, same three folks as before. Will someone go all in and create a super team? We're on the trade season. A lot of people are talking trades, and I love that. It's the best time of year. But if Nate, Justin, Frank, one of them goes in and really sells it all, the rest of the league is pretty balanced. It feels like there's an opportunity for a super team to emerge. I just don't know whether the sales environment is going to allow for that, because teams that are selling are not going to be looking to get rid of $12 and $16 studs like we have in the past. At least that's the theory. So super curious to see how it plays out. I'm obviously in contention, so I might buy, but I always, as the commissioner, don't want to see super teams either. So we will see. Nate's always cooking something up. Who knows? He's talking about selling earlier this year. I'm not so sure that's wise or in the cards still. And then Frank, historically not a huge buyer, but last year sort of broke out of his shell, and I'm curious to see. He's bounced right back, so presumably he could try to do it again. So we will see. And then tier B, good buys could lead to tier A status. I certainly think if Alex buys some offense, the pitching's already right up at the top, number 2 for a long time. Some good buys from Alex and not good buys or no buys at all from the top tier. And I think Alex slides right into this group. Matthew, I have in the tier below him, tier C, could go either way, buy or sell. This is where I'm thinking to myself, well, someone has to make the playoffs, right? Whether they want to or not, someone will finish 5th or 6th. And there is going to be a point in the season where someone's probably going to think to themselves, I think I'd rather be 7th than 6th to get Ohtani or Witt or whatever. That's entirely possible. But right now, Matthew's in the top 6, I believe, in the standings. Yeah, number 6, tied for number 5 with JW, Matthew, and Casey. He is the one team where I don't really know what I would do, because he's shown some ceiling, or at least he's had a couple good weeks, but it's been pretty bad lately. I don't know. It depends on how much he trusts the core into 2026, I guess, right? So if he feels like he has $100 of elite talent going into 26, and it's the background stuff that's just not fitting, maybe he could load up with a few picks and be better next year. But nothing's guaranteed. If you can make the playoffs, then sometimes you just got to take it and hope you get lucky, right? Speaking of the next tier, tier D, I'm calling it probably should sell, or should probably sell, but anything can happen in the playoffs, right? I think that's almost exactly what I just said. So JW, French, Corey, Brad, and Casey, I have in this tier, and one of these teams is going to make the playoffs. At least one, right? Matthew might miss. Heck, Alex could miss. So it could be that 2 of these teams make the playoffs. At least one will, unless we get a surprise from Bo or Jeremiah, who are in full sell mode. I don't believe that's on the table. So one of these teams is making the playoffs, at least. And Corey, like I said, has said he would sell. JW has talked about selling today. Brad has been neutral so far. French has not sold anything. Casey has bought, probably likely to continue to buy, I would presume. This is the most interesting tier right now, I think. So French has kind of been on a roll. JW's up here because he's been hot, but obviously if he sells, that'll probably push him down. To our final tier, which are 2026 hopefuls. So Bo and Jeremiah are not making any secret about it. It's pretty much on to next year for them, right? So, and I think the admission from Corey today that he's probably looking to shop some of his high cost guys and get building blocks back means he's probably looking that direction. JW could be looking that direction. So French, Brad, Casey in particular, I mean, one of the 3 of y'all will make playoffs. So it could just be whoever buys in. I'm kind of excited to watch that race because, not only will one of you make the playoffs, but the other 2 of you are probably going to be in prime position to finish right around that 7 mark. And that could be really valuable. So anyway, I think we have a lot of fun stuff left. We're on to week 13. Trade deadline is the end of July, or maybe it's week 17. I think I've synced it up with a Sunday. It's probably August 3rd. So we have a little over a month left, and I'm not surprised to start seeing the chats go off about trades. We're in that window. So I bet we're going to have a lot of big moves. I bet some teams will change. The power rankings could look totally different here in a month. But for now, this is how I see it. And here's the upcoming matchups. So yeah, I guess that's it. So I'll see you on the next one.